Well, I guess to start out, how we started this whole thing was I was in practice, and probably like most chiropractors, you're taking care of patients, and then you have this amazing miracles happening, and then what I kept experiencing was I would constantly be finding out that I lost patients after the fact. Like
Yeah.
they kind of left, and then I would remember about a patient, go into the office, find out that the things had happened that I could have seen ahead of time. If I would have just addressed them, we would have had a chance.
For example.
So, for example, well, the story I can tell you that was the most impactful for me was a patient named Chris who came to our new patient orientation, got amazing results, just chiropractic results. But one day he came into the office and he said to me, "Can I speak to you alone?" He said, he's a happy guy. This day he comes in, he said, "I'm suicidal. Like I'm ready to
Wow.
I'm ready to end it." And I said, "Well, whoa, what happened? You're normally this, now you're this." So I said, "What did you change in your life?" Well, actually, the first thing I asked him is, "How are you going to do it?" And he said, "I have a gun, and I'm going to go to the shed when the kids are asleep. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to pull the trigger."
Oh.
So, you're supposed to ask that question. I was relatively young in practice, so I remembered the boards. They tell you to ask that question, but the reason you ask it is because you want to know if they really have given it thought, and he did. And so I said, "What did you change? What happened in your life?" He said, "Well, I stopped drinking all the alcohol. I stopped smoking marijuana. I stopped doing all the drugs I was doing, and I started eating better." I said, "Well, that's a lot of stuff, and probably your chemistry in your body's got to be way out of whack. You're probably detoxing, so maybe that's what's causing what's going on." And he said, "Not that we're trying to do nutrition in the office, but," I said, "maybe this is a good thing. Maybe it's your body's natural way of adapting." And I said, "Well, why did you do all that? Like, what made you think to do all that?" He said, "Well, after the workshop, our new patient workshop," he said, "I realized that this was more than just about my spine, and that my spine protected my nervous system, and that this was about removing interference to the function of my body, but really to my health." And he said, I realized that all of these things were interfering with my health, and I wanted to, and if that was interfering with me, it was affecting my relationships with my relationship with my wife and my children, and if I wanted to be the best father and mentor, I had to make a change. And I said, "And you got that from the workshop?" And he said, "Yeah." So the thing was, Chris understood this. He got chiropractic on a level that you would want everybody to get. And with patients, I realized we don't know when they're going to get that idea, right? We don't know if he got it at the workshop. It could be one of their adjustments. It could be a re-exam. It could be at any point in their life cycle. It could be at an internal event you have in the office. And you never really know when they're going to get it. You never know when they're going to forget it either.
Yes.
Now why, right?
Yeah.
So we built a system that basically is like the nervous system of a practice, where it finds the problems and it controls and coordinates the tasks that have to happen. So if your practice is a body, and your team members are the organs of the body that make functions happen in your office, they have lots of tasks that are functions. Those organs need to be told what to do every minute in real time, what has to happen, and control and coordinate everybody. So other systems aren't built like that. Our system is a web-based system, so there's a centralized database, and that system finds those risks in real time to patient relationships, and it creates tasks and pushes them to the people rather than the people having to go find the things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a proactive, philosophically based system that helps you manage your practice and manage your team, and ultimately gives you the best chance at managing your patient relationships.
And it includes everything, right? It includes the
everything.
doctor's notes. It
Oh, yes.
includes having the billing on there. It includes the scheduling. It includes
Yes.
the tasks that you were mentioning.
Yes. It includes.
It's everything.
It's everything, and it's also a different concept. This, what we call workflow. We call it the dream practice workflow, actually, because it actually spans everything. Like you said, there's documentation, there's compliance, there's billing, there's coding, there's patient relationships. So it spans all of that, and it's not that it's difficult, but it's different than anything else that's been out there. It's like a patient that just learns chiropractic and has to implement that into their life.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen on one day. It takes time. We're still doing it, right? We're still changing our life and trying to be more philosophically sound, right? So when you're trying to implement a system, it's really a methodology into your practice. It takes time and energy and focus, and you really need help with that. So we also provide a coach.
Great.
dream practice coach.
Okay,
The
so
person-
like live person you can talk
live
to
person
and
that
figure
is
everything out?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I don't have salespeople. They literally are they do a dream practice analysis with you on day one. They analyze where you are, how the system can help you, and they plan to implement it over time. And they're with you from that day through your relationship with us as a
How
client.
does it work if you already have an existing system in your office that you're running your billing and you're scheduling through all that data, all those thousands of people that are in that? Can they easily be transferred, or is that all new input? How does that go?
There's a transition process, and we have actually an implementation team. So there's a few components to that. One of which is patient demographics and things like that. Usually, most systems can export a CSV file, which is like an Excel spreadsheet of all your patient demographics, and send that over to us, and we're able to upload that. Sometimes systems can't do that. We have other options for that. Some practices can print out a HICFA form, for example. So if you can print out a HICFA form for every one of your patients, we can enter and just fax it to us. We enter them for you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Because I have to admit, that's something.
daunting task.
It's change.
Yeah.
Who loves change?
Yeah.
You know? And I have a system in my office, for example, that it works, but is it the best system? I don't think so. And I'm looking at your system, I'm thinking, wow, there's a lot of things that can be improved, that can be made smoother, that can help my CAs, that can help me. But the thought of going through that step and changing, but to hear that there's a lot of help available, that's
Change
great
is
to know.
always difficult,
Yeah.
absolutely. And what I've noticed, whether it's software or any other change in your office, while you're trying to change multiple things, what can happen and often does happen is when you get all gung-ho about changing something and you go in that direction, and then you realize I got to change this too. I'm hitting the table here. You have to change this thing too, and then you never really change all that effectively. You kind of get partial implementation of each one of those things. And that's one of the reasons we have that coach, because we realized that early on. We don't charge a big bunch of money up front. I don't want to go into price on this because it's different for everybody, but we don't charge a big bunch of money up front for software because we charge what's called success fees, that you're only going to pay us for as long as you're happy being a client, right? So what would happen is if we had clients that didn't implement this fully, they weren't as happy. So one of the reasons we even started having a coach was to make sure that you fully implement the system. And change is always difficult, but make it as easy as possible. So training is a big part of that too.
Yes. Thank you, Bryn. I appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Thank you for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit how people can reach you, how they can contact you, please?
Sure, yeah. The website is GenesisChiropracticSoftware.com, and there's actually a special page. If you do a /IFCO, you'll see there's some information. Dr. Walker's on there.
Oh, about the IFCO. There's
Yes.
a whole nother little thing that we forgot to mention that
Yes.
you do.
Yeah, we only support pro chiropractic organizations. So one of the things we do is when somebody signs up and mentions the IFCO, we give a $200 donation to the IFCO in your name.
Great. So it's a really win-win-win.
It's win-win-win. Yeah, we're all about
Fantastic.
promoting chiropractic.
Fantastic. Great.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you for being on.